Today on the Bar Business Podcast, discover the shocking truth. Most bars lose $200 to $500 per week through inefficient shift scheduling that a simple 5-minute calculation can prevent. Learn how to calculate the single KPI you need to spot overstaffing patterns and to understand the efficiency of your team. And master the optimal staffing sweet spot, which is between about 25 and 30% labor cost, depending on your exact format during peak hours and 35 to 40% during slower periods. Welcome to the Bar Business Podcast, where we help bar owners increase profits, attract loyal guests, and simplify operations so you can avoid burnout and finally enjoy your life outside of your bar. I'm your host, Chris Schneider, the Bar Business Coach. So today we're diving into a critical but often overlooked aspect of bar management. It's something we all think about quite a bit, but that's the mathematics behind your effective staffing. So how much time do I need your team on? What does a good team member look like? How do we even begin to level set between two people on our team and how effective they are at their job? But before we get into all that, let me ask you this simple question. Have you ever done payroll and wondered, where's all this money going? Or felt like you're overstaffed or understaffed, or your service is suffering, or there just seem to be too many people there? And the thing is that quite frequently, we've talked about a lot of KPIs on this podcast. And there are plenty of old episodes you can go listen to and really dive into KPIs. But the thing is, when we think about bars, there's really one labor metric that we should always be looking at. And this is a labor metric that, if I'm real honest, a lot of POS systems are doing for you. And so what is that metric? That metric is sales per labor hour. So today we're going to talk about how we figure sales per labor hour, what we can do with it, and some other things to keep in mind to make sure that you're running an efficient shift and that your labor's as under control as it could be. So a lot of times when people talk labor, we talk labor cost percentage. Now, labor cost percentage is a great metric, right? Industry standard for labor cost percentage is going to be between 30, 35%. And that's why I said in the intro, when you're really busy, that should be 25, 28. When you're slower, it's going to be 35, 40. But labor cost percentage fails to give you the whole picture about your labor, because that's just telling you what you sold or what you paid for labor as a percentage of sales. It's not really showing you productivity, and it's really hard to compare labor cost percentage across employees. You're not really getting anywhere. So that's where sales per labor hour comes in, or revenue per labor hour. Sometimes you'll hear it said that way, but normally what we're going to hear is it's called sales per labor hour. And so it's really quite a simple calculation. And that's why we could say this is a 5-minute thing you can do, because it's a really easy piece of math to do. So how do we do sales per labor hour? We take the total sales and we divide it by the total labor hours. So if you have $3,000 in sales in a day and you had 60 labor hours, well, 3,000 divided by 60 is 50. So you have $50 of sales or revenue per labor hour. Now, depending on your bar, exactly how you run, it's hard to say exactly where that sweet spot is going to be for you, what that goal should be. But generally speaking, for most people, it's going to be between $45 and $65 per labor hour in revenue. That is going to show that you're efficient. Now, one of the things I love about sales per labor hour, because remember, it's just sales divided by number of hours gives us sales per labor hour. So that's also a metric now that we can run across every member of our team. So we can take all 5 of our bartenders, look at their shifts, look at what they rang, look at how many hours they worked in those shifts, and determine each person's sales per labor hour, which is going to give us a fantastic way to understand, is Sally more productive than Jane? Who on our team is being more efficient? And you can do that with bartenders, you can do that with servers, anyone front of house, you can run this metric on them, and that gives you a really good idea of what's going on. And something that I would recommend doing is when you're looking at sales per labor hour, if you're going to break it down by team member, right? Look at sales per labor hour for the day. Look at sales per labor hour for each team member that day. Compare that across, say, 3-4 weeks, and you'll notice patterns. You'll see that someone is always higher sales per labor hour than average. Someone is always lower sales per labor hour than average. And that tells you exactly how your employees are performing as far as what unit of their time is generating sales for you, who generates you more sales, who generates less sales. And so that will give you a really good way to kind of manage your labor and understand it better. So let's talk real quickly. What is the sweet spot we're going for? Well, the sweet spot here we're going for, like I said, when we talk labor cost percentage, we're looking at trying to be in that 30 to 35% range generally. Now, if we look at efficiency and we do better scheduling and we try to tighten our shifts, look at where we can have strategic overlap during peak hours rather than having someone that comes in for a full shift. Can I make somebody stay a little bit later, somebody come in a little bit earlier and get some strategic overlap in peak hours? And if you really pay attention to your efficiency of your team, right? So what are the sales per labor hour that those servers are producing? Who is getting you more money per hour in revenue? Who's capable of handling higher volume? That's also indicative of sales per labor hour. Now, once we can rate people, we can define that, we can figure out who our power players are, and by using shift overlap, we can probably get our overall labor cost down 8, 10, 12% just by implementing this data and by understanding it. So how do you go about doing this? So number one, if we want to drop our labor, yeah, we need to calculate sales per labor hour. But let's give you a little bit of a better plan than just that here real quick before I let you go for today. First thing is start tracking sales per labor hour. So look at your sales, look at your labor hours. If you use something like Toast, great. It's on there, spot on. They have it. These are metrics that you can just look at. Now, they may not have this by employee, so you may still have to do some math, but start tracking today and try to get at least really 2 weeks of data. You start to get good. A month of data, if we're looking at employee by employee, is about what it takes to get a really good feel on this. And of course, you can go backwards, right? So just because I'm saying pull your numbers today doesn't mean you have to wait a month. Just pull numbers for a month back and then do all that math. It takes a minute, but that's okay. So get your numbers in line. Determine your sales per labor hour for each day for the last month. Determine your sales per labor hour for each server, bartender, front of house person working each day for the last month. Now remember, and I think this should be obvious, but I want to just make sure I point it out again. If we're talking about, we have a server named Mike and we want to know his sales per labor hour, it's what Mike sold divided by the hours Mike worked. And we want to make sure that we're not using the larger numbers that go across the entire team. But bottom line is, pull those numbers, look at them. Then I want you to pull your sales by hour, right? And let's figure out what is an average Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Do it for every day for the last month and figure out what's your average sales. Well, now I know what my employees can handle, and I know what my average sales are every hour of every day I'm open. And we've pulled this data from the last month. Now it's just, hey, on Saturday at 4 p.m., we do $65 in sales on average. And that's it for the whole bar. So I just need a bartender. But if Mike is the bartender and Mike's sales per labor hour average is only 45, where Jane's sales per labor hour average is 70, and I need somebody that can handle $65 in sales, well, Jane's probably a better choice than Mike. Right? And then once you've gotten through that process and you've kind of determined, okay, here's what I need to cover, here's how I'm covering it. And mind you, we're not doing this just on, I need 2 servers. We're doing this on adding up the numbers. So we're being very specific. Because let's be honest, if your servers range between $40 and $60 per labor hour, 2 $60 people do $120 in an hour, 3 $40 an hour people do the same volume. So if we're strategic, we can cut down on our labor. Additionally, when we do that, look at when your start times are, right? We now have this by hour. You can even go down to the half hour. So you can stagger people in rather than everybody comes in on the hour. Maybe you want people to come in on the half hour. But determine your average sales, determine the sales per labor hour that each employee is doing, and you will find ways to optimize. And if you're having trouble with that, go down in the show notes, grab a strategy session with me. I'd be more than happy to walk through with you your specific numbers and how you can implement this for your bar. So today we've explored a simple 5-minute calculation, sales per labor hour. Again, it's going to take more than 5 minutes if you're going to do all your employees individually and cover everything from the last month. But if you do this every week, it's only going to take you 3-4 minutes a day if you stay on top of this. And this will give you the exact data you need to schedule your restaurant as efficiently as possible, to understand how your servers perform in relation to each other, and to finally make data-driven decisions on your scheduling that can save you $200 to $500 a week. And if it saves you $200 to $500 a week, as an owner, that's $10,000 20, 30 grand in your pocket at the end of the year.
That about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed today's insights, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you are ready to take your bar to the next level, schedule a strategy session with me by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next time, have a great day, and we will talk again later.